Hi, Magellan TV, important people who make important decisions, like choosing me. Hi, YouTube. My name is Lindsay Weisner. I am a clinical psychologist, which does technically make me a doctor, but secret. I don't really make people call me a doctor unless I don't like them, so we're going to be just fine. I graduated from Georgetown University. I did research for the government in child and family development at the NIH. I went on to graduate school, and then I did a postdoc in psychoanalysis, which basically means if you need someone to tell you what your dreams mean, I can totally do dream interpretation, although let's all keep in mind, it's based on a bunch of old men that were high on lots and lots of drugs. But still, I spent an extra 5 years getting that postdoc training. So always we're here to help with crazy, hallucinogenic knowledge. I am dying to be picked. Actually, I guess anyone's dying to be picked. But I put on makeup and brush my hair twice. I would love to be chosen to blog for Magellan TV for 24 hours, 48 hours. 48 hours away from my 11 and 14-year-old is sort of like the best vacation I could think of. I love them. It's been a long few years, though. I really think I'd be a good fit. I have the psychology background. I also have been writing for Psychology Today. I have a blog that I've been doing for the past about 2.5 years. I watch tremendous, that was me trying to decide if I was allowed to swear or not. I can pull back, but I would either say shitload if I were so allowed, or a tremendous amount of true crime. Tremendous. In addition, I'm the co-host of a true crime podcast. It's sort of a new baby. And we took a brief hiatus and now I've come back. It's called the Crimes of Long Island podcast. My co-host is a friend, neighbor, and he also has an Unsolved Mysteries Rewind podcast that I've gone on a few times to guest host with him. And I research the rabbit hole out of any rabbit hole. I like it. I'm obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with the legal aspect of it. I'm obsessed with the emotional aspect of it. I've trained my kids, to be perfectly honest. It was sort of an accident, but in the midst of the last, 2 years of lots of true crime and lots of, true crime research for our podcast, my son can now memorize a license plate on command. And my daughter was walking home from her bus stop and saw what she described as a sketchy guy, walking near her. And so she got out her cell phone, this is a true story, and pretended to be on the phone with Dad. And she said, "Yeah, Dad. Yeah, no, I still have a little bit of pepper spray left. Some mace also. I mean, I have it on me now, but if you're going to the store, you could totally pick me up some more, but I've got enough for now." And she spoke loud enough that so that this man could hear, just in case this was serial killer or, spree killer or whatever he was going to be. He was not going to be my daughter's, abductor, and she was not going to be his next victim because she had pepper spray on her. My kids don't have any of that. Don't tell anyone. Now I'm going to have to give it to them. I'm going to put this out there. But yeah, it sort of invaded our whole family. My son knows that when Dateline is on, it means within 40, well, it means basically he can do anything he wants within 45 minutes. The same thing goes for pretty much every other show out there. It's just the Dateline music is very familiar to his ear. So, but I eat, sleep, and breathe true crime. I listen to a load of true crime podcasts myself, and I have made some friends along the way. I have interviewed some fellow true crime people for the Neurotic Nourishment podcast, which is my other podcast, and I like to say it's a podcast for smart, sweary moms. We talk about a bunch of stuff, but I've definitely had a few guests on there that I was fortunate enough to talk my way into. I begged, I borrowed, I called in a few favors, and I'm comfortable with that because that's what it takes. So one of the women that I met, who her name is Anita Zannin, she was a podcast guest on Alexis Linkletter and Billy Jensen's Unraveled. It was the episode where they discussed expert testimony, expert witnesses, and what it took. She was on the first episode. She's amazing. She has a master's in forensic science. She was also, I'm going to have to read this off my notes because it's a really weird, complicated title, but she was one of only 6 people in the world, which is the universe as far as we are concerned, to be certified as a competent forensic expert in bloodstream pattern analysis. Now bloodstain pattern analysis. Oof. If she and I ever stop being friends, it's literally going to be because I keep messing up the bloodstain, blood spatter, bloodstream, blood splatter. All I know is blood splatter is like a slur in the crime scene world. So don't ever say that. But I called her in a favor and I told her what I was doing and that I wanted to be chosen to blog for Magellan TV. And she is the total opposite of me and really, really serious. And yet she totally gets what gets me excited. And then we're both science girls, which I don't know. Okay, science women, I don't care. So I thought it would be fun to invite her to help me out a little bit with my interview. I'm calling this an interview because, well, if you're not interested, this is as close as I'm going to get. So I might as well call it an interview. And so yesterday I recorded with Anita for a bit and I want you to see it. So here you go. So I wanted to prove to you that I listened and understood. So I'm just going to take some. I decided to show you my boobs. Just kidding. Look what I made for us.
Oh, look at you.
Let me adjust it so you can see it. So I created a crime scene.
I see.
You don't like it?
I'm just studying.
Oh, okay. So apparently we don't have any guns in the house, like little but toy guns we don't have. And so I couldn't find a gun. But so I set up a crime scene with, well, it looks like there's only one victim, but there's 2 weapons. And there's also, do you see the void?
I see the void, but I'm not seeing what the weapons are.
Oh, right. So one of the weapons is the green man that says, I am a gun.
Ah.
Yeah, come on. Listen, we do with what we can.
I just can't read it from here.
Oh, okay.
I can't read the notes.
But do you like my, so I have noted, we have medium velocity spatter and the cast off pattern.
Can you bring it down a little bit?
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Let me see if I can lift it because it's only fun if you can make it fun with me. So Anita taught me so much and then I reviewed before. And so, like I said, I'm a mom and somehow there are no guns in my house. It's not me, like toy guns. So here we have the points where they were attacked and we know there's a they because look at the void, right? Mm-hmm. And then I have, oh, you can't even see that. Look, the other victim manages to get out the door. And then we have poor Skipper. I think it's Skipper because she's got red hair. And she clearly has arterial spurts as evidenced by the more oxygenated blood. And you don't like it at all, but I love it. And low velocity splatter from where it just drips down the wall.
Did you just say splatter?
No, spatter.
Okay.
Yes, I did. I'm sorry. I know it's not splatter. Are you making fun of people with dyslexia? I don't have dyslexia. I'm just kidding. But look, if you look here, there's a person missing and a weapon missing, and that was going to be my great reveal of Sven. Sven ran away from the damn crime scene.
They do that.
Yeah, and based on the medium velocity spatter, we would expect that he was hit with a blunt object. Come on, I looked this stuff up.
Could be a blunt object, or it could be a stabbing.
Ooh, that's true. Would the pattern of the spatter look different if it were a stabbing versus a stool?
Versus a stool, very likely so.
So if it's a stool, how did I do?
Well, I would say when I first looked at it, I would have guessed that there was some arterial gushing.
Yep.
So the low, medium, and high velocity impact spatter is not really the words, the phrases that are used anymore, because there's a lot of overlap between those categories. But even when they were used, it's important to use the word impact in there as opposed to medium velocity spatter, because it's not the spatter that's medium velocity. It's the impact that created the spatter that was medium velocity. So that's why it's medium velocity impact spatter. Which
makes 100%, because a gunshot is high velocity. Velocity is a word for speed. And then, me throwing anything has much less force. And then something just dripping by gravity obviously has the least amount of force. So that makes a lot of sense.
Right. So now we typically just call it impact spatter consistent with a gunshot, or impact spatter consistent with a beating or a stabbing, that sort of thing, because the size requirements or the size guidelines for what used to be high velocity impact spatter was less than 1 millimeter in diameter to about
1 to 3 or something. Yeah.
And then medium was 1 to 3, and then low was larger than that. But unless you're being hit with an evenly applied force and nobody's moving and things like that, there's a lot of overlap in the categories, as well as the very tiny drops can't travel as far as the larger drops. So with somebody's, say, shot in the head, you have a variety of stain sizes from sub-millimeter to 3 millimeters. But if there's no target surface close enough to the blood source to catch that blood, you might only see the larger stains and erroneously think that it was a beating or stabbing type of event.
Interesting. Well, they're Barbies. I didn't have real blood to work with. And he's not even a Barbie. He's just Sven, and he ran away. So
I would say that most of what I see there looks like transfer as opposed to impact spatter. But I did get the arterial and I did get the dripped blood. But the medium, or what you're calling medium, would be more easily accomplished, like with flicking your finger. If you have blood on your fingers and flick those, that would give you more of an impact pattern than it looks like. You probably actually touched the board with the blood. It was
a toothbrush. I used a toothbrush. I will admit it. Yes, that is a good point. And the other thing that I wanted to catch but didn't, because I thought my daughter would be pissed off if I ruined her Barbie skirt, but was the concept of, the difference, on clothing, the difference between it just settling on top, which is more likely with transfer, versus sort of sinking more deeply in, which would, I'm guessing, involve more velocity.
That's a qualified yes. And it would be difficult to see on Barbie clothes anyway. You typically have to look microscopically to see that. But if there's saturation of clothing, you may not be able to tell whether it was from you know, a large volume of impact spatter or transfer.
They're Barbies though. I know. Listen, I just wanted to demonstrate to you that I listen and pay attention and am an imperfect crime scene maker.
It's hard to stage a scene, isn't it?
So hard. And I spent like 6 hours this morning, and my husband was like, why don't you just drop the idea? But when I get into something, I'm into something.
Right.
You know, it's amazing that I thank God this wasn't like a real crime scene. It was somewhere at some point, but you know, I want to Google the, you know what, out of everything, because to me, this stuff is, and obviously to you, this stuff is really interesting.
Right. And with a gunshot, if she was shot, I don't see anything that I would call classic impact spatter consistent with a gunshot. Those are very tiny mist-like blood stains. And if they're there, I just can't see them, maybe from the camera. But
I pretend they're there, but really, I just thought the arterial spurts were so like Quentin Tarantino-esque. And so I was like, well, I could do that. I mean, also it's acrylic paint. I just wanted it to dry in time.
Sure. Well, you know, the way you can do that in the future, should you need to do this again?
Should I ever need to make a crime scene again?
use that toothbrush and just flick the bristles with the substance on there, and it creates a very fine spray. In fact, that was something that I used to do when I was teaching, to caution students against, you know, coming to a conclusion too quickly, because it can look very much like impact.
I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, dear God, it's a good thing that blogging for Magellan TV for 24 hours does not involve editing, because this girl, woman, doctor, talker too mucher, has no clue how to edit. And you'd be 100% right. I Wikipedia it. So sorry if it gets a little messy. Also, I hope you appreciated the time spent on my Barbies and their, you know, the dramatic crime that befell them. I still have paint stuck to my fingers. Even though it's acrylic, it may never come off. But if I got a follow-up call from you, or email, or dear God, I don't even know how you're going to do it, I would definitely, well, I'd paint my whole hand red if you wanted me to. Actually, I think my thigh is still red from the diaphragm. Thank you for listening. I feel like this was probably too long, and yet I'm not perfect. Crime isn't perfect. Most of us aren't perfect. I do fall into the, you know, the true crime genre perfectly. I'm almost 45. I have 2 cats. I do subscribe to HelloFresh, and I am thinking of giving the Fresh Harvest, whatever that one is, a try. So I've basically managed to cover all of the big sponsors on all of my favorite true crime shows. Again, I have a heart. I have humor. I'm pretty sarcastic. You're gonna have to let me know if swearing is allowed or not. And I took the time to harass, bother, beg, and plead with a friend slash acquaintance slash one of the most amazing, you know, forensic science analysts, which is going to leave it at that, in the country, so that she would come talk to me for about 20 minutes. And then I showed her a diaphragm that I made from acrylic paint and Barbies. So clearly, I am not afraid to put myself out there. Thank you again. And if you want to know more about Anita, because she's fantastic, if you ever need an expert testimony, something, her name is Anita Zannin, and she runs AZ Forensics. So, and if you want to know about me, you can find me on Instagram at PsychShredMom. I've mentioned my podcasts. Clearly, this is my YouTube channel that rarely gets used, but now it will. And I hope there's a future for us. I hope we speak in the future. ooh, I hope there's a future for us. That's something a serial killer would say, I think. Maybe. Either way, I'd love to talk about it more. Thank you.